So welcome everyone to the second session of our first day of the Nature Relationships and Wellbeing ANFT online forum. We're excited to introduce to you our next speaker, Toby Bloom from the U.S. Forest Service, National Program Manager for Tourism and Interpretation, an ANFT certified forest therapy guide, I believe the first one in the U.S. Forest Service. And part of the myriad of things that Toby does in her day-to-day professional life, one of those works includes strengthening recreational economies in forest gateway communities. And Toby's here with us today to speak about the intersection of public health and public lands and how using America's national forests as healing spaces. So please take us away, Toby. We're excited to have you here with us.
All right, Geeta, thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to see everyone here today, and I'm just thrilled and honored to have been invited. I'm gonna figure out here how to, if Geeta, if you could coach me through how to get my slides up, that would be really great.
So at the bottom of your screen, you should see a horizontal bar and with a little green square that says share.
Aha, I see
You
it.
click that. You should have a map of the different screens you have in your computer, and you just choose the one with your slides.
Okay,
Press
well,
share.
let's see. Here we go. All right. Window, Microsoft Edge tab. Pardon my delay, everybody. Here we go. How's that? Are you seeing the screen?
Yeah, we see your screen.
Wonderful. Okay. Are you seeing me or are you still seeing the presentation?
We see the presentation and you. We see both of you.
Okay, well, here we go. Away we go. So hello, everybody. Again, thank you so much for being here today. My name is Toby Bloom, and I'm the National Program Manager for Travel, Tourism, and Interpretation for the U.S. Forest Service. I feel very lucky that I kind of work on a portfolio that allows me to highlight both the economic and health benefits of outdoor recreation and nature, and to connect people with nature so that they can receive those benefits that we're talking about today. I am not comparing myself to Einstein here by any stretch of the imagination. I put him up here just to make the point that, you know, for centuries, insightful people have been commenting on nature and wellness and how important it is for us to really connect with nature. And it seems kind of only in the recent past that we are kind of losing some of that wisdom in modern times. And so I really feel lucky that in my job, I get to, you know, work on rediscovering that. And we had a big boost during COVID when pretty much everything else was shut down. About 80% of the national forest system was still open. And we saw our numbers increase to like 168 million visits in 1 year. That was up by about 20% from the year before. So there was this shift in American society, and I heard that it happened in other places in the world where people really started reconnecting with nature. So the timing of that kind of coincided with some of the other work that I had already been doing. As Geeta mentioned, I was the first Forest Service employee to become a nature and forest therapy guide back in January of 2019. I've been leading walks since then for the public through my job and also a little bit privately. I really do it a lot more now with the Forest Service and our International Programs Division. That has put me in touch with folks who work for the government in the Ukraine, as they are now using forest therapy as a kind of therapy for the folks who are fighting right now and their families. So I'm really just seeing this stuff kind of happening all over the world, and it's very encouraging.
Toby,
So again,
Toby,
yes.
we're only seeing your first slide. I don't know if you already moved on, but we're only seeing your first slide.
Did.
Yeah, so
Thank you for letting me know. Hold on one
if you
sec.
can go to presenter mode or presenter view, or yeah, so we can see the full screen as well, because we
Your screen sharing. All right. Shoot. So I'm changing it on my slide. I mean, on my screen. Let's see. Where are you seeing my slides? I don't see my slides. I only see me.
okay,
Yes, we
we're
see wisdom of nature now.
Which one do you see?
Einstein.
But
Okay, wow.
it's
Okay.
it's still in slide mode though. You haven't changed to presenter mode.
Yeah, I was in presenter mode and then I escaped out when you told me you couldn't see my slides. Are you seeing my first slide now? The cover
No.
slide? I wonder
The
what's
wisdom of
happening.
nature. And
Okay, so say it again.
it's still the wisdom of nature slide that's there, and it's
All right,
not.
well, I'm going to keep sharing it in this mode because when I put it in the other mode, you're not seeing my other slides. Let's
Okay.
see. So I'm on to the next slide. It should say diversity, equity, and inclusion in
Yep.
forest bathing. Are you all seeing that?
Yes.
Yeah, we're with you.
All right. Well, now everybody gets to see my notes too. Look at that. Surprise. I don't remember all of this stuff perfectly. Haha. All right, friends. Well, let's go ahead and do this. Technology. So another thing that I wanted to talk about, it became such a wonderful practice in my life and was such a great way for us to connect our visitors with nature that, we decided, my colleague, Tamberly Conway. Tamberly, are you here today? Well, Tamberly, if you get a chance, pop on and say hello. Tamberly Conway was responsible for getting us a relationship and funding to complete a forest bathing training on our forest called El Yunque National Forest, which is in Puerto Rico. We were trying to expand the trainings more into non-English speaking communities, specifically in Puerto Rico, and making sure that we were reaching communities that maybe hadn't had this opportunity before. And at the time, Puerto Rico was recovering from the devastation of Hurricane Maria. And so it was a really lovely time for us to be able to work with folks who really kind of needed maybe some course correction and like repairing their relationship with nature. So it really couldn't have come at a better time. So this was the first ever bilingual Association of Nature and Forest Therapy guide training to expand the forest therapy practice into diverse communities. Again, we had it just outside of El Yunque National Forest. We trained 22 bilingual guides, which greatly expanded the ethnic and cultural spectrum of the ANFT community at the time. Now we're training in Spanish all the time, I believe. Subsequently, we offered those trainees a way to practice their walks with Forest Service employees and participants. And again, during COVID and after COVID, our staff were badly in need of new tools to deal with stress. In addition to the stress we've dealt with during COVID, all of our units, as I said, really experienced record-breaking visitation, and our staff had to manage that while staying safe and keeping our visitors safe. So it was just really an extra challenge. And on top of that, still, many of our staff deal with wildfires. I'm sure you've been hearing about that in the news. And so while they're dealing with it at work, they're also dealing with it in their home communities. So there is a lot of stress that we were and still are kind of attempting to help. So during COVID, we did a lot of virtual forest therapy sessions. And we also allowed folks to register via pre-scheduled virtual sessions that we were scheduling as well. So that was really kind of the main entree for forest therapy into the Forest Service. All right, let's see. Are you seeing my next slide called Prescribing Vitamin N?
We are. Totally.
Wonderful, fantastic. All right, so this was for me kind of the first real step, the first written evidence of institutionalizing this kind of work in the Forest Service. After several years, we were able to publish this toolkit. We manage 193 million acres of US forests and prairies, which amounts to about 8% of the total land area in the United States. And the Forest Service is really kind of poised to be a leader in implementing these concepts. And I really wanted to push that forward and empower our units to use the spaces that they worked on as healing lands. And some of this stuff was already going on. So in fiscal year 2018, the Forest Service began this pilot program where 3 national forests established partnerships with 3 healthcare organizations on the delivery of therapeutic, nature-based experiences on national forest system lands that benefit at-risk populations. Physicians, nurses, and others in the healthcare field worked directly with the Forest Service to lead and facilitate wellness outings on public lands for individuals with chronic illnesses, in recovery from major surgery, at-risk youth, and minority populations. The healthcare organizations also added value to the agency by providing training for our staff about backcountry medicine, when you need to get out of the backcountry to seek help, or things that you can possibly do to help yourself. And so it really was a win-win for us. We were learning more, and we were providing this new intervention for healthcare for these facilities as well. I'll give you a quick rundown of what's going on in these pictures. So the first one was a group called Barton Health that's out in Lake Tahoe. And I was actually out in Lake Tahoe in the spring, in May, and actually got to reconnect with one of the doctors who had worked on that project. And he didn't know that this toolkit was out there, but he was really excited. We have a group on the Chattahoochee-Oconee National Forest in Georgia that every year work with a group called Casting for Recovery. They do fly fishing retreats for women who are in the process of recovering from, or are in remission from metastatic, I guess not in remission, but in the process of dealing with metastatic breast cancer. And so it turns out that the physical action of casting a fly net is really good to reduce scar tissue. And we all know that being in nature really helps us kind of deal with difficult emotions, and being with other people who are dealing what you're dealing with what you are dealing with is also therapeutic. And then the last group was in Indiana. The University of Indiana partnered with us, and they have an interesting setup where their recreation department at the University of Indiana is based within their public health department, which of course, makes perfect sense to all of us, but it's pretty cutting edge in the world of university programs. So these are the 3 programs that we had, and we were scheduling Healthy Hoosier hikes up there in Indiana. And so based on these 3 pilot programs, we put this toolkit together to really empower our folks to work together with these healthcare organizations to provide this kind of opportunity for local organizations to get out onto the national forests, reconnect people with nature. Folks who may not feel safe going out into nature by themselves because they're not familiar with it, or they're dealing with a health issue that may prevent them from, having that kind of disconnection from civilization, let's say, for lack of a better term. But it's really been exciting. And then we finally got this toolkit published back in 2022. You can find this online. This is a publicly available toolkit. Like I said, it's kind of directed towards our units, but you can read the documents and see the stories yourself. And if you work for a healthcare organization and would like to partner with the Forest Service on a local unit, this will help you get through. I also want to offer to matchmake. If there's anybody out there that works with a local healthcare organization and wants to partner with the Forest Service, please feel free to send me an email. I'll put my email in the chat at the end, and I will put you in touch with the local units. So just a little plug there for this work. The last thing that I wanted to talk about, and again, this is my last slide. I'm really hoping that this is going to be more of a conversation than just a presentation. I'd really love to kind of hear from other folks about how they're implementing this work. Are you seeing my slide that says programs for veterans?
Yes, we are.
Beautiful. All right. Things are working great now. So we have several programs that invite veterans to come work for the Forest Service or use our lands for healing. There is a program that we work with called the Mount Adams Institute, which does kind of an internship with folks so that they can get used to the public lands. And then that transitions them into a job with the Forest Service. We have programs where we do permitting for organizations that are interested in having like an event on a national forest. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And we also have volunteer programs where veterans can get out and work on trails and things like that. All of these programs are accomplished through partnerships agreements and special uses permits, which is how we work with all of our partners through the Forest Service. But this has been a really growing opportunity. Our field staff are very hard workers and they have a million things going on. And when I first sent out the call to ask for examples of these kinds of programs, I got back like 100 emails. People are really proud of this work that they're doing. It feels like it's making a difference. Now that we have, you know, a fair amount of employees who are veterans, this is really near and dear to their heart. And something that has really culminated from this and has been such a wonderful part of my work in the past 2 years, there was a bill passed called the Compact Act that was designed to reduce veteran suicide. And part of the Compact Act said that the government needed to get together and find out if there were barriers to veterans accessing public lands. And so there is a White House task force for veterans and outdoor recreation. And I've been lucky enough to sit in on that task force and kind of be the de facto lead for the Forest Service for the past 2 years. We're expecting our publicly available report to come out probably in October, which will include these recommendations for how to reduce those barriers to access. And spoiler alert, a lot of the barriers to access that veterans face are the barriers to access that a lot of people face for nature. And so as we are working to reduce barriers for veterans, we're also making it easier for the general population to access not just Forest Service lands, but we have Park Service folks here. We have Army Corps of Engineers. So if you live near a lake or a dam, that's probably Army Corps. So all of the public land management agencies, the federal agencies, are involved in this task force. And we are making sure that we are making our lands as accessible as possible. So these are the different programs that we are engaged in. Like told you about the work program, the volunteer programs, a lot of times our trail building, trail maintenance, cleanups, and things like that. Then we have veteran outings and retreats on NFS land. Paul Anderson, are you on the call and able to unmute yourself? Oh, I was hoping Paul would be able to make it today. I'm not looking at my screen, so I can't see if there are things in the chat. But Paul runs a wonderful program called Huts for Vets. And they take veterans that are dealing with PTSD. And we have a series of, I think they use 10 of the huts that are up in one of our national forests in Colorado. And he has a special uses permit to bring them up there, and they'll be up there for like a week at a time. And they're connecting with nature. They have therapists along with them if they're going through a tough time and they need somebody to talk to while they're up there. But through this particular program, through this White House task force, and, you know, Paul and I connected because of that, I hear the same stories a lot. The testimonials usually go like this. You know, I wasn't myself when I got back from whatever war I was in. And I just couldn't figure out how to fix it. And I really wanted to fix it. And I went to a lot of doctors and they prescribed a lot of medicines and it just wasn't fixing it. And then I found out about, this volunteer program, or I found out about Mount Adams and how I could work for the Forest Service, or I learned about these Huts for Vets programs. We even have a program, you'll see a picture down at the bottom, the climbing heroes down at the bottom. Those are for veterans that have experienced severe physical problems because of being in war. They may have lost a limb or some other disability that came about because of their time in war. And these people are climbing to the top of, huge mountains, physically actually climbing to the top of mountains, not just figuratively, but literally. And so all of these things, are ways for people to connect with nature and connect with other people that have gone through the issues that they have gone through. And we manage those lands. And so for me, it is an absolute pleasure and an honor to be able to share that with as many people as possible. Of course, I'm a forest therapy guide, but I just feel like any time that we can spend in nature is good for us. And there are lots of different modalities for how you spend time in nature. I know in the previous presentation, somebody asked about gardening. Absolutely. However you get there. And so us being able to provide that opportunity even more for veterans and other folks that, are at risk for one reason or another, that is a real pleasure in my industry and a real pleasure for me to be able to do for the Forest Service. So I am on my last slide. I really wanted this to be more of a discussion. I am fairly confident that there is a large amount of expertise in the room right now. And I think that we would all benefit from hearing from folks that maybe are not presenting, but are on this call. And for me, I would really like us to try and kind of institutionalize this across federal entities and federal lands. I see Cindy Capwell has her hand up. If y'all wouldn't mind coming on camera to speak, if it's not your thing, I totally understand. You could put on your mic, but just wanted to put it out there.
Good morning. You did a great job. I didn't realize my hand was up. It may have been something else. I'm multitasking at work. Sensational. I start my cohort on November 4th, and it is absolutely incredible to see these 150 somewhat people on this. It actually gives me the chills. I've been doing this since I was 4 years old, and now I'm 55, and I can actually become, I guess, certified to bring it into our community. I collaborate with many physicians, very close friends of mine, and I'm very excited to get started. So thank you, and what a pleasure to meet everybody.
Thank you, Cindy. Appreciate you coming on camera. Even if it wasn't your intention, I really think it just enriches the conversation to hear from folks and hear their different experiences. We're really excited to have you join too. It's just very exciting to have this be kind of rediscovered by the world. Let's go to Kelly Bruce next. Hi, Kelly. It's great to see you.
Good morning from Western North Carolina. I am really pleased to report that after 3 weeks of closure from Hurricane Helene, Pisgah National Forest has opened back up. So that's my home place to guide and a very special place to my heart. So very happy and emotional about that reopening after a lot of devastation in this area. So I'm excited to connect with you to learn how we can do even more with our national forests.
Absolutely, Kelly. And I should mention, Kelly and I trained together as guides. We started our training in 2018 and became certified in the beginning of 2019. And I've been down there with Kelly, and the Pisgah is a beautiful forest. And, it really is important. These are your public lands. We manage them on behalf of the American people. And so I want people to feel very welcome. On most of the national forest, there is no charge to enter the general areas. In particular, recreation areas or day use areas, you may pay a fee. But even if you just want to go and sit by the side of a creek, please join us. The Pisgah is a beautiful place to do that. And Kelly, we're all still reeling from such an unexpected event that really, really hit Western North Carolina so hard. And that actually, Kelly and I hadn't been in touch in a while. And so I reached out, and I'm so glad you're doing all right. And I just got back from 2 weeks out of the office. So to know that the Pisgah is back open makes me feel fantastic. And I'm glad you all are back in action down there. I know there's still a lot of healing and a lot of repairing to do, but I'm glad that we're on the path and just really happy to see you.
Yeah, good to see you too. And it's really needed now more than ever, especially in this area where both the land and our people really need a lot of healing. So happy to have a place to take people again.
Awesome. Thanks, Kelly. Folks, anyone out there who wants to raise their hand and talk a little bit about their work in this area or their passion for this area? Oh, Cindy, your hand is up again. I'm going to call on you if it's just I see Holly Joe. Please come on camera.
Hi there. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm actually with ANFT, and I wanted to ask because we have a fleet of consultants that have identified various places within the national park system that would be really beneficial to certifying as a nature and forest therapy trail to really bring people
Mhm.
into connection in this way. And so it's been really challenging working with agencies across the board like this. So I was just curious if you could maybe share who would be the person that we would talk to within the MPS. It's a huge organization, totally understand that. And we're all working in our various areas and places. But maybe some help in guiding us in how to move efforts forward within MPS on that front. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for the question, Holly Joe. And I think, this is one of the things that we as agencies are dealing with. I work for the Forest Service, but I have a lot of colleagues and friends that work in the Park Service. And like you said, it is a big agency. What I always encourage folks to do is work at the local level and really kind of reach out, do your research, and find out who the land managers are at the local level and learn about the programs that they're doing. But I will say at the national level where I sit, Park Service is really a lead on this. There is a program called Healthy Parks, Healthy People. And Dr. Sarah Newman is the lead of that program, and she's wonderful. So you would probably be able to reach out to her. But again, like I said, in order to get moving the fastest, I would reach out to the local units. And you know what? Just like everywhere else, you're dealing with personalities, and some folks are more open to this stuff than others. And so maybe that's been your experience as well. But I really encourage you to kind of develop a relationship with the land managers who are in that area. And, as long as there's not kind of a financial commitment, I will share that a lot of the agencies are having financial difficulties these days because Congress is not funding public land management the way that it used to. So things are falling by the wayside. And so sometimes it's not about not wanting to reach out to you. It's that folks are just simply overwhelmed because they're doing more work than one person should be doing. And we're covering, 4 different jobs. So be persistent. I would also really encourage you to think about reciprocity. What are you doing to make things easier for those folks that you're kind of asking for access to? Are you showing up on volunteer days and things like that? Those are my observations and my suggestions for how to do that. And I think, at the end of the day, on the business side of things, I always say I'm a business hippie. What are you bringing to the table for them? What is the value added for those folks? They have so limited time and they are stretched so thin. What is the thing that you're bringing to them that could make them, take that last straw on the camel's back to be able to give you that access? I really would look towards that. And I'm going to put my email address in the chat here. So that if folks, need to have a desire to discuss this further, you can certainly send me an email. Let's see, what's my email address? There it is. Okay. And then I did see that there are questions in the chat that I'm just getting to. In Western Montana, getting a special use permit has been tricky. Deborah Goslin. Yeah. I see somebody already had one. Okay. Wonderful. Desiree, wonderful. Thank you for helping. This is the kind of networking that I'm really excited about. Let's all continue to help each other. And let's see, I'm doing a career shift and starting training on November 12th. Listening to everyone is inspiring. Great. All right. So I think, has anybody seen any questions that I haven't answered yet? And please don't be shy. If you have ideas or you have experiences that resonate and that are engaged in this topic, please feel free to jump in. And if not, I'm going to put my other folks on the spot, Amos or anybody else. And Kelly, haven't you also done some walks for veterans?
Toby, I have a question that was posted earlier.
Sure.
I'm hoping for some information as to a universal program for nature and forest therapy guides with the U.S. Forest Service special use permit.
A universal program. Whoever put that question in the chat, would you mind coming on camera and explaining what you mean by that so I can answer properly?
Maybe you can raise your hand.
Hi, everybody. It was actually me, Desiree. I am in California. I was certified in 2018 and started working with the U.S. Forest Service in Mammoth Lakes, which is close to Yosemite, Northern California.
Yeah.
And I went through a couple different rangers. Turnover there is quite prevalent, but the personality of the final person that I was able to contact with was overwhelmed by the practice and was more than happy to help, helping me get through the special use permit guidelines. It is very tricky, as our friend Hannah was saying. So I, with a paralegal background, am more than happy to help with getting through the paperwork and what you need to say. Again, it's all about the verbiage, as you were trying to say, in getting through that process with the Forest Service again. So I'm more than happy. I gave my email there to help with the process there.
Awesome. Desiree, thank you so much for coming on camera and offering that help. I mean, that's a reality. The permitting system is not easy. And it's put in place, you know, to safeguard the land. But that also means that there's a lot of hoops to jump through, and sometimes it can be expensive. So another thing that I've been thinking about for the past several years, and I've asked people periodically, it's a big ask, but if you work for a nonprofit and you would like to work with me to try to get a national special uses permit, there are certain, you know, I'm not a technical expert on special uses permits, but there are certain uses that, because they have such small impact on the land, can sort of get some, I don't know, waivers is not the right word, but basically if there's minimal impact on the land, you can get a permit that's a little more flexible. And I would really love to try and get one of those at the national level. And maybe have that kind of be like a benefit for being an ANFT guide, is that you have access to that national permit. So if anybody on the call, you don't have to tell me right now, but you can certainly email me, is interested in going down what will probably be a little challenging and long, years-long road, months-long road, I think that would be fantastic. And for the forests where this is prevalent, like on the Angeles National Forest, I know Crow used to do walks there. I'm not sure if he still does, but, you know, there are sort of ways to do this. And again, you got to get the right people sometimes, as Desiree said. But I would really like for us to try and get a national special uses permit so that any ANFT guide has the opportunity to go on Forest Service land with that permit and do their walks. So if anybody wants to try and go down that road, please email me. All right. Kelly, I'm going to go back to you unless I don't see any other hands up.
I think there's questions in the chat. Yeah, I think I see a couple
Okay.
more questions in the chat.
Thank you. I'm a tree expert. I'm not a Zoom expert, so I'm not great at sort of balancing all of the different, let's see. What other 11 new messages? If somebody, Kelly, would you mind reading the questions that you're seeing? Because I can't see any new questions. Takes a whole village, peeps.
I don't think there's new questions, just comments.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay. All right, Kelly. Well, I'm going to pick on you and ask you if you can share a little bit about your experience guiding for veterans, please.
Yeah, I found just like all of us, we've found the healing benefits of nature, and there's so much research that backs that up, but it's especially been beneficial for our veteran population. We have a really amazing VA here in Asheville, and we also have a really amazing nonprofit organization called the Veterans Healing Farm. in Western North Carolina. And they're going through some restructuring, but that's one of the many organizations that are trying to connect veterans with nature and other healing modalities that are along the same vein, like gardening, beekeeping. So we just have so many testimonials time and time again about how it has helped people really soothe their weary spirits, after recovering from all kinds of trauma. So I think that I've been very lucky here in Pisgah National Forest to connect with some really wonderful trails, and I have a commercial use permit there, and we've been doing so many wonderful things here. And I know it's challenging in other parts of the country, but here in Western North Carolina, we have a really wonderful Forest Service and visitor center here. And I feel so grateful to guide in these mountains. And coming off of a natural disaster, it's a whole nother type of trauma that I think people are going to really need a lot of healing through nature. So it's a big, big win for us to have Pisgah back open again.
Awesome. Yeah, that's absolutely true. And Kelly, let me just ask you a quick follow-up question. In terms of your process for getting a permit, how long did that take? More or less.
I would say probably about 6 months. And once I did have the permit, it was even hard to pay. I'm like, help me pay you. Because I guess anytime you're working through government, it takes a little bit of time. And so I encourage everyone to be patient. And like you said, find somebody locally who is able to, meet with you and don't focus so much on what you want from them. Focus on how you can help them with their mission. Ask those questions about, what are your goals in this forest? What are your initiatives that you're working towards? And I think when you reframe it that way, say, how can I help you? That really, I think, goes a long way in building the relationship.
Great. Thank you so much, Kelly. Katrina Hawkins, would you mind coming on camera and telling us a little bit about the experience that you just posted in the chat? I think folks would love to learn more about that.
Hi, I'm here in Indiana, and I work up at the Veterans Hospital up in Indianapolis, and the YMCA up there has collaborated and has a camp, Flat Rock. And we have had 3 years of where we've taken the veterans out to the camp over there. We stay in yurts and have campfires and all kinds of recreation, music and fly fishing. And it's just been amazing. We started with 17, went to 35, and this year we had 60. And so, yeah, it's on like a 200-acre park, and they've just, they climb, just all kinds of nature activities, and it's been wonderful. So.
Awesome. And Katrina, did you say that you work for the VA up there?
I do. I'm a nurse up there, and I am I just finished my certification through MFIT in July, and I've got all kinds of ideas I want to talk to you about. I've talked to somebody at IU and, with the veterans. He is a veteran and he works for IU because we have a park down here and it's on the lake, and it's got an amphitheater, and I've got the whole plan with ideas. So I'll be getting a hold of you. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, please do reach out. That would be awesome. All right. So we talked a lot about veterans, but again, these programs are not just for veterans. We're really looking to get everybody out on the national forests. In North Carolina, there's another program by one of our partners on the Pisgah called Find Outdoors. And they were working with the local Latino community and just things that, we don't think of as Forest Service employees. And we really kind of need the perspective of outside groups. And so Find Outdoors has a group called Club de Exploradores, which means Explorers Club in Spanish. And, this is one of the things that struck me the first time I learned about the program. The previous director there, who's now out in Utah, I want to say she's in Canyonlands. I can't remember, but she said the thing that happened was, parents want to send their kids out, but they don't think they have the right equipment. They said the kids have school shoes and they have church shoes. They don't have outdoor shoes. And so who would have even thought that, the barrier for those kids was having the right shoes? So that NGO took care to make sure everybody had hiking shoes or hiking boots, and they take those kids out and give them a basis for understanding nature and connecting to nature. There are a lot of communities where parents are just trying to be protective of their kids and they don't want them going off into the woods. Totally understandable. But if we can create that nature connection by providing, access for these kids, safe access that their parents can trust, we're making that connection early and they know it's a place that they can go, for refreshment and revival. So we're looking at, at-risk youth, not just veterans. We're looking at older folks. That was one of the groups that the Lake Tahoe Basin worked with, people recovering from hip surgery. Those folks were a little nervous about going out for a hike by themselves, but if they could be with doctors and make sure that they had the support that they needed, they were loving going out there. So I just really want to encourage folks to connect with other groups that might have these kinds of needs. You might have the thing that is, helpful for them to finally decide to get out there. Anybody else? Oh, Woodsy joined. Hey, Woodsy, do you want to come on and talk a little bit about your experience when we guided for international programs? Woodsy is based here in DC with me. We led forest bathing walks periodically. The Forest Service International Programs Division will bring in their folks from all across the world, and we do forest bathing walks with them in some of the DC areas. And so that's been a really wonderful experience. And Woodsy joined me. We led a walk on Kingman Island, which is kind of a hidden gem in Washington, DC. It is a wetland area. There are some habitats and animals there that we don't have anywhere else in the city, and they are beautiful. So Woodsy, are you able to join us for a minute and talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, greetings. This is Woodsy. Some people know me as Carolyn, but my pen name is Woodsy, and I'm a relatively new guide also. Just got certified last year, and I had the wonderful experience to guiding with Toby, and it was wonderful. We guided 35, I think we're 35, Toby helped me. There were 35 employees with us at the International Force. Toby, I can't remember.
Yeah.
Okay.
And all from different countries.
Yes. And Toby took half the group. I took the other half. And we had French interpreters and Spanish interpreters. The walk was just 1 hour, but it was wonderful. And I'm thankful and grateful for the experience. But I also want to comment, being a new guy, I'm trying to find my niche in the DC area. And I heard people talking about permits with the National Park Service. And I'm having that challenge right now. So I like to talk to you more about that, Toby, because I'm in the process of trying to get a permit with National Park Service, aka Rock Creek Park right now. So yeah, I can guide there. So so I'm glad to be here, and thank you.
Awesome. Woodsy, you know what I would do with Park Service? I've guided in Rock Creek Park in the past, but I've guided when they have like Rock Creek Park Day or Earth Day. And so I think, a way to sort of develop a relationship, especially for those that don't know, Rock Creek Park is a super well-loved urban park. It's a big forest oasis here in Washington, D.C., and a lot of people don't know about it. But it's a wildlife corridor. There's a creek running through there. There is a road called Beach Drive that during COVID was shut down to automobile traffic. And then when things started picking up again, the community decided that they wanted to keep it shut down, and the park agreed to it. So, relationships with the community are kind of the hallmark of Rock Creek Park. And so I think what I would do is maybe get in touch with the park or take a look at their calendar of events and volunteer to lead forest bathing walks when they are having events so that they can see how well you're doing the work. And then that really kind of establishes that foundation for a relationship of having the experience like our friend who spoke before, where you get in touch with somebody who sees the power of a forest bathing walk and then wants to help you get that permit. There are also a bunch of other parks in DC, national park lands in DC. I will give you the names of these other places that are less visited, but there are communities that are really looking for these kinds of activities. You know, there's tons and tons of stuff going on in Rock Creek Park. But if you're willing to go like to Oxon Hill, the parks over there, Oxon Hill Cove, is underutilized. And they, I bet, would love to have somebody over there leading forest bathing walks. So I think it's also about kind of massaging the opportunity and going to a place that's not already saturated with events. So again, Woodsy, you have my work email address. You can email me and I'll send you some ideas. For the rest of you, I shared my my forest bathing email address. If there is a need to connect through work, I will send it to you after we connect on the Forest Immersion DC email address, but that's another way to connect.
Toby,
yes, tell me my time. Am I over?
We're at time, but Anne has her hand up for a while now, so I'm just wondering, Anne, do you still have a question? Anne, can you hear us? Yeah, there you go. Do you want to speak your question? We can't really hear you. I think Anne, oh, here she is. All right.
All right, and if you have a question, again, I put my email in the chat for folks. Please feel free to reach out. A caveat, I have business trips for the next 2 weeks, so I may be a little bit slow to answer, but I promise I will answer anybody who emails me. It just might take me a little while. But thank you all so much for joining today. Let's continue to really strengthen these networks and institutionalize the use of our public lands as places for healing, and for revitalization. So thank you, ANFT. I love you guys. I'm so happy and honored that you asked me to join you today. And I hope everybody has a great rest of the forum.
Thank you so much.
Toby.